Okay, good day, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to parallel session 2 in room D. Before I start the session, I want to introduce myself. My name is Prince Charles Heston. You can call me Charles. And now I working as a civil servant or lecturer as a state university in Indonesia. Before we start the session, I want to inform some rules for each international conference participant. Our meeting start and end on time, and every presenter gets 15 minutes to present their paper or PPT. Participants are allowed to pose questions within the Zoom chat box or verbally. Moderator should prioritize participants who wish to pose questions verbally. And between verbal questions, moderator is also encouraged to select 1 until 2 questions from the chat room. And for all the participants, also I want to remind you, please choose a quiet location and mute yourself. Participants are allowed to pose questions within the Zoom chat box or verbally. One person speak at a time as recognized by the moderator. Be concise and respectful of others wishing to comment. Take the problem, not the person. Stick to the agenda and do not multitasking. You can focus on this session, please. Okay, I think we can direct to the session and
nggak perlu recognition apapun teman-teman pasti dari OJK. Nah, sebetulnya saya sih ingin menyarankan.
Okay, I think it's time for us to begin the session, and I want to remind that all the participants, all the presenter, only have 15 minutes to present the paper, and after that, 10 minutes later, we answer the question and answer from the participant or the other presenter. Okay, for the first time presenter, we have 3 presenter in this room. So I give 25 minutes each presenter. Begin from Mr. Daniel Suryadarma. The paper is topic about heterogeneous impact of internet availability on female labor market outcomes in emerging economy, evidence from Indonesia. I think it's time for Mr. Daniel to present your paper. The time is yours.
Terima kasih, Pak Charles. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to the presentation. Let me share my screen and hope it works. If it doesn't work, you can just please let me know. Okay, so today I'm going to present about a relatively new paper. It was finished last year, published as a working paper this year on the impact of internet availability on female labor market outcomes in Indonesia. This is joint work with Niken, Kusumawardhani, Rezanti, Pramana, and Nurmala Saputri from SMERU. And I should say that this presentation is the opinion of the authors and not the institutions that we are working for. This work is funded by the United Nations University wider, based in Finland. So the outline is as follows. I have a motivation and research question, and then a bit about the methods, results, and conclude hopefully within the time. So the first thing is just this fact that female labor force participation rates in Indonesia, the top left picture remains low and unchanged. So this data goes back all the way to 1990. The female LFP rate is the orange one. And as you can see, in the past 30 years or so, it hovers between 40-ish to 50-ish%. And this is despite fertility decline. So you can see the graph on the top right where total fertility rate declines from above 3 to just around 2.3 over the same period. And also a higher female education attainment. There's this new paper by Akresh, Halim, and Klimans, who looked at the impact of the SD Impress program and found significant impact on women's education attainment, but couldn't find any evidence that the higher education attainment increased women's probability to work. And also the bottom left figure shows that compared to other countries, both poor and middle income or even high income, Indonesia's female labor force participation rate is on the lower side compared to Timor-Leste, for example, Vietnam, Australia, and Singapore. So this is the This is the condition that we face, and then we think the internet might have a positive impact on female labor force participation from these various channels based on the literature. One, it provides more information about job searching. So women who are not able to find jobs using the regular traditional ways can find jobs on the internet. Internet-based jobs could also be more flexible, and a lot of women might prefer to do both stay at home and raise their children, spend a lot of time with their children, but also maybe work a little bit or work full-time but with flexible time. And an internet-based job would allow that. And also there are also more job opportunities because, as you know, because of online commerce and internet availability in general, there are different jobs. They can offer cleaning services, they can do taxi services, they can sell products in Tokopedia and whatnot. So basically both, the number of jobs available increase, it's more flexible, there's more information about the jobs, the payment, the conditions, and also in South Asian countries, for example, there's a lot of labor market discrimination, and the internet would mask that somehow because employers care less about whether the work is done by a male or female if it's offered through the internet rather than in person. I should also note that in developed countries, so in high-income countries, the evidence shows that this kind of the availability of internet more positively affects the labor market outcome of highly educated or skilled women, because they can do more jobs and not so much effect on low-educated women. But it could be different in low middle-income countries because, as I mentioned, there are lots of jobs based on the internet, based on the online commerce that are actually targeted or are more appropriate for low-educated women in Indonesia. So this is just the first slice at the data. This is using the village potential dataset, PODES. The proportion of villages with internet kiosk from 2007 to 2018 by urban rural areas. You can see the increase in both areas. In urban areas, the increase is not that dramatic. It's from 22% to about 37-39% over the last 10 years. But in rural areas, as you can see, it increased from 4% to about 19% in 2018. So there are like big jumps in terms of proportion of villages with internet kiosks. And similarly, if we look at Susanas between 2011 to 2018, and then we start now differentiating between older women and younger women. So younger women is 16 to, I think, 35 or 36, and then older women are older. High educated women are women who are 10 years or more, have schooling attainment 10 years or more, and low educated women from 0 to 9. And as you can see, for all groups, women who have access to internet continue to increase from, say, 15% in 2012 to more than 40% in 2018. And this graph shows that the access is always higher for younger women or higher educated women. For high educated women, for example, you see that top line between 2016 and 2018, close to 80% of high educated women have access to internet or use the internet as of 2018. So we see this heterogeneity in access as well. So we have two research questions. Basically, what's the average impact of internet availability on female labor market outcomes? And based on our motivation, are there any heterogeneity in impact based on education, low and high educated, and age, younger and older women? This is the empirical strategy. So this is our reduced form model where the left-hand side are labor market outcomes of female I living in district J at time T. And our main independent variable of interest is proportion of villages in district J with internet availability. So there are two reasons why we choose this independent variable. One, this variable is exogenous in the sense that we do not have to model the decision by individuals or households to have access to internet, because that's very endogenous and it's very hard to get an instrument or any other kind of identifying variables. But if the variable of interest is proportion of villages in a particular district with internet availability, then that's more exogenous. So that's our argument. And also the second one, actually, this variable is more policy relevant because policymakers, what they can do is they can provide internet to villages, for example, in districts, not so much in making people subscribe to internet services. So for policymakers, this variable is the more policy relevant one. And then we put a lot of individual level and district level control variables that are exogenous, for example, the age and the education levels. And then we have district fixed effects and province-specific year fixed effects. The data is a combination between Sakarnas and PODES mainly from similar years, so 2007, 11, 14, and 18. And we combine those two variables to allow us to estimate this model. We use SUSANAS for descriptive statistics that I mentioned before, and then for robustness checks. And based on our second research question, we divide the sample into young women and older women, and low educated and high educated women. So this is sort of our labor market indicators that we do. So first we have women who are age 15 or above, and then we take the first one is labor force participation. So individuals 15 plus who are currently working, unemployed, or temporarily unemployed. And conditional on being in the labor force, we look at their employment status, whether they currently have a job or not. And conditional on having a job, we look at their hours, whether they're working full-time or not. Formality, so we look at sectors of employment, and skills. So we look at high skills and low skills, and this is the definition of high-skilled individuals. So we have 5 outcome variables. So in addition to doing the quantitative analysis using SUSANAS and Sakarnas and PODES, we also did qualitative approach. So we interviewed 13 women who are young mothers. They gave birth to their first child in the last 2 years. They live in the greater Jakarta area, Jabodetabek. They are 35, old or younger. They're married, and they were working full-time before giving birth, and they finished high school. So this is like highly educated women who had already been working full-time before they gave birth. And the idea is we want to see whether using internet as a resource help them or not, and if it helps them, how it helps them in continuing to, for example, balancing between taking care of the child and working, or still working full-time, or looking for other sources of information. So first, what we want to check is whether the growth of internet availability in the past 10 years between 2008 and 2018 is correlated with any district level variables. Because if it is, then you can argue that internet availability is endogenous to these variables that might also affect women labor market outcomes. So we do this at the district level. This is a cross-section. The dependent variable is growth in internet availability, and the independent variable are these conditions in 2008. As you can see, we look at mean household expenditure per capita, how many urban areas, number of population, districts, main source of livelihood, agriculture, industry, trade, service, education characteristics, whether they have a permanent market or co-ops, access to international TV channels, and proportion of villages with cellular signal. So from all these variables, the only one that's significant statistically and positive is proportion of villages with access to electricity, which means districts where more villages already have access to electricity in 2008 would experience a higher increase in internet availability between 2008 and 2018. Other variables are not that significant. And these negative variables that you see, for example, proportion of villages with permanent market or strong cell signal, basically indicate some sort of catching up. You know, when they had a relatively weak cellular signal in 2008, for example, then they caught up with the districts with the stronger cellular signal between 2008 and 2018. But these variables are not that statistically significant. So this is basically the result. So we find that internet has a positive effect on female labor force participation. The red box shows that if you go from, so if you're living in a district where 0 villages have internet access, and then you move that woman into a district where all villages have access to internet, then they increase about 3 percentage points in labor force participation. So we use standard deviation increases. So we find that one standard deviation increase in internet availability, which is equivalent to from 25% to 53%, increased labor force participation rate by 1.5% proportionally, which is very small, and increased full-time work by 5.6% proportionally. So 5.6% is relatively bigger than 1.5, but we think these are small effects. And we don't find any evidence of impact on employment, on skilled jobs, and on formal jobs. This is our full specification where we include all the control variables and the fixed effects. So we think that's sort of interesting, but then we look at the results by age. And this is the results by age. We look at first the younger age group. We look at a 1 standard deviation increase in the proportion of villages with internet increases younger women's labor force participation rate by 3.8% proportionally, and increase their probability to be working full-time by 7.3%. So we think these are big effects. There is no other effects on the other labor market outcomes. For the older age group, we find that internet increases probability for full-time work by about 6%. But when we disaggregate the age groups into smaller age groups, we find that this result is only driven by, again, younger subgroup in that older age group. So women 36 to 45 increase their probability to be working full-time by about 10% proportionally, which means in Indonesia, availability of internet has no impact on older women's labor market outcomes. If we look at by education, we find that internet availability has a larger impact on low educated women. We find no effects on highly educated women. Those with 10 or more years of schooling, basically not statistically significant effects. For women with lower education levels, 1 standard deviation increase in internet availability increased probability of working full-time by 8%. It decreases probability of working in skilled jobs by 27%, which is a huge effect, and decreases the probability to be working in formal jobs by 20%. So we're thinking that this is showing what's happening with jobs that are delivered through the internet for women in Indonesia, because we think that low educated women, they are fine with low skilled jobs, and they are fine with informal jobs, which is what you would get if you're working in an online marketplace.
Mr. Daniel, your time is up.
Oh, okay. So should I stop, or can I go on for 1 more minute, 2 more minutes?
Yes, you can explain your conclusion or.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So if a woman is working in an online marketplace selling things, then she is in an informal labor market, not in the formal job. So that explains, we think, our findings. This is another support for our analysis, because we find that for low educated women, The left one, the left graph shows in the 6 major islands, proportion of women working in the services sector. On the vertical axis, the horizontal axis is proportion of village with access to internet. On the right-hand side, the vertical axis is industry. As you can see, the line is positively sloped for services and about flat for industry. So what we're thinking is women moved from jobs in the industry, which is formal and low skilled or maybe skilled, and then move to services sector, which are informal. So we did robustness checks. So I'm going to skip that. And then I might skip this one as well. Sorry about that. So the conclusion, this is the final slide. We find that higher internet availability have limited effects on the extensive margin, meaning female labor force participation or having a job or not, employment. But once women are employed, we find that the impact on having a full-time job is relatively sizable. It's about 5.6%. And internet affects the low-educated women and young women more than high-educated or older women. But the effect is negative on skilled jobs and formal jobs. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Sorry for going over time.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. I think it's very interesting for your presentation, and such as a specific case in your research. It's very interesting. And for now, I give you a chance for audience, from participant or other presenter, maybe something that you want to ask to Mr. Daniel and team. I allow you to make a question. Please welcome. Yeah, any question?
I should also add that Niken is here. So, if you guys have difficult questions, Niken can answer them.
Oh, yes, please. Is there from participant or yes, Mr. Budi Reso Sudarmo? Yeah, please unmute, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Daniel and Niken for the paper. Interesting. So I just want to relate this paper with the argument that Lisa Cameron has been doing on female participation in Indonesia. So her main argument based on her data that the time that female participation drop is when they have the first child. So when they have the first child, a lot of them are dropped, and then it takes time for them to be able to catching up. And so I thought that if this is true, you could in a way expand your model, because timing that somebody get a first child could be random. The issue is that whether using Susanas, you could actually create a pseudo panel over there, or in a way, I don't know whether you could do difference and difference, but that what do you think about that setting?
Yeah, thank you, Pak Budi. Yes, you're right that that Lisa Cameron's paper found that actually that's the main motivation for us in our qualitative study to look at highly educated women who were previously working full-time and just recently gave birth of their first child. So the question in that qualitative study is, how does internet, or did internet help you to go back to work or to balance between spending time with your child and also your career? And what we're finding is that these young women, our respondents, said that yes, because one, it allows internet allows work to be more flexible. So one of them mentioned, if I finish work at 4, I go home at 4 p.m. and I haven't finished my job, then at night after everybody's asleep, then I can continue working. And that's only possible if I have, I can do my work through the internet. And the second one is that it allows the women to look at, other skills, so they can learn other skills that also give them a chance at employment as well. But I think in the qualitative research, what came through, and we couldn't really measure that in the quantitative data, is the role of this role model of, a lot of the respondents said that if their own mothers were working when they were still young, then that gave them like motivation or higher motivation to continue working. Yes, so that's our finding from the qualitative study. But we can try to look at Sakarnas. So we use Sakarnas, not Susanas, in our main data, because Sakarnas has more detailed labor market outcome variables. But yes, we will check whether we can then differentiate between, mothers with children that are, say, 3-year-olds or younger and not. And then we look at the impact of internet on that. Thanks, Pak.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Budi. I think you can understand what you mean about your question. And next, I have a question from the chat room from Mrs. Michelle. You want to ask if
I can read her question.
Yes, yeah. We can say that it actually helped increasing the female labor participation.
Yes. So yes, thanks, Michelle. So the answer is yes. So for the full sample, we found that a higher internet availability has a causal impact on increasing female labor force participation, but it's very small. It's like 1.5%. But if we look at low educated women, then the impact is a bit larger. I think from memory, about 7 to 8%. So yes, on the internet, but on the gig economy, we're not sure yet. What we are looking here is just if internet is available in the districts or in the villages where these women are working in. So that's something that we will build on, I think, in the future, whether looking at the arrival of, for example, Gojek or Tokopedia or Grab into that area, whether that improves female labor force participation differently compared to just internet. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. I think that's all from the chat box. And for the last, before we closing your presentation, I'm curious why you choosing your time period until from 2008 until 2018. Why not choose 2019 or 20?
So yes, so the reason is very pragmatic, Pak Charles. Basically, when we thought about this paper and we started working on it, we only had access to up to Sakarnas 2018, and this is in 2019. We started this work. So your question is probably whether if we add one more year, whether the results would be different. So we think it might, but I'm not sure whether it'll have a big impact, because the main increase in internet availability happened between 2004 to 2018, and that's the graph where you see the jump from high educated women, say, from 40% access to internet to about 80%. And once you're at that level, then it's sort of already maxed out. But yes, it's a good comment. We can consider whether we'll add one more year of Sakarnas to it or not. Oh, sorry. I just remembered something. We need also PODES for the independent variable. So even if we have Sakarnas 2019, I'm not sure we have PODES that's sort of, in the corresponding year. And that's one of the reasons why our data is 4, 7, 11, and 18, I think.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. Such a very interesting presentation, and I think your research is very good. And we hope you have your big benefit from your research in the future. Okay, thank you so much. And now we move to the second presenter. I want to invite Mrs. Bernadette Vania Geraldine. Is Miss Bernadette already in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, okay. Okay, welcome, Mrs. Bernadette. For this time, we'll presenting the paper about Hexagraph, plastic and styrofoam substitution in interior product packaging.
Yes.
Okay, please welcome Mrs. Bernadette, and the time is yours.
Thank you for the time given. And hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I hope you are doing great and healthy. Thank you for the opportunities given that so that I can be here presenting my studies and research for IRSA 2021. First of all, my name is Rezanti, and I'm a sixth semester student of Interior Design Department at Peta Christian University, Surabaya. And today I'm going to present my paper research entitled Hexagraph, Plastic and Styrofoam Substitution in Interior Product Packaging. Okay, so what is the problem for this case that I studied? Okay, yes, it's a trash. Indonesia is one of the world's largest waste producers, particularly in terms of plastic waste. This waste will eventually accumulate with the results that it can pollute the environment. This issue comes from the bad habits of the society that tend to throw the trash anywhere they can without considering the impact that will occur if they do it continuously and simultaneously. According to the data from Koalisi Rakyat untuk Keadilan Perikanan, or abbreviated as KIARA, 1.29 million tons of plastic waste are dumped into the rivers and ocean every single year. For about 46,000 tons of plastic waste can also be found per square mile of the ocean. That's a huge amount of trash, and they're only from the river and the sea. As a result, Indonesia is waste 102 countries in the world. It means that Indonesia has no good waste management system. It gives an impact into the oceans. This plastic waste causes millions of marine organisms to mortality. Plastic waste is not only dumped into the sea, the attempts to remove it are often carried out by burning it, causing respiratory disorders and death in many species, including humans. People may be unaware of the many negative consequences of plastic waste. So the use of plastic itself as a packaging for products or as a protection layer for expedition use is one of the most significant contributors to plastic waste. It is also used as a packaging layer of interior furniture products, while the average size of the product itself is quite huge. Despite using cardboard as the packaging, it still uses plastic and styrofoam for further safety to the product itself. Although some of the packaging already uses cardboard and for the packaging, this problem increases even more during the COVID-19 pandemic. Most people order everything they need, including furniture or other household goods via online store, or even at the simplest things, such as ordering food online via Ojek Online. It also uses plastic as the packaging. Since shipping products needs additional protection for the product to ensure its quality, the use of plastic and styrofoam is increasing more than before. Okay, so now we're going to discuss about the main problem of this study. It's plastic. Plastic is a material with a wide range of properties, flexible variance, long-term longevity, and low manufacturing costs. Plastic can be found in almost every aspect of human life. However, based on some research, plastic can be harmful to human health and even damage the environment if used improperly. Furthermore, it is very difficult for microorganisms to decompose. There are various types of plastic based on the constituent materials. Plastic material used to make food containers is certainly different from others to make the electronic devices, as well as the product packaging or protective layer. These are some the examples of 7 types of plastics. There are PET, PETE, HDPE, PVC, LDPE, PP, PS, and other. Another types of styrofoam is another material that is very hard to be decomposed. It is a form of polystyrene that is also classified as a plastic. The characteristic of this material are stiff, lightweight, can keep the temperature stable, and odorless, so that the material is in great demand among the community. But unfortunately, it is mostly used as a disposable use. People throw it out as the unboxing process of the product is done. This will cause the same issues as plastic waste, namely the occurrence of styrofoam waste, hoarding and shortening the styrofoam life cycle. Okay, so what is the solution of this problem? As a result, using environmentally friendly packaging will help to solve this issue. Packaging that is eco-friendly is made from materials that are easily biodegradable, recyclable, and do not harm the environment or living organisms. Environmentally friendly packaging has the following characteristics. It has no or little negative effects on the environment. It is made from easily biodegradable materials, and it is safe for both living creature and the environment itself. There are several materials that can be used for eco-friendly packaging, such as paper, cardboard, biofoam, and bamboo. By using eco-friendly material, it has some advantages, both economically and environmentally. It can be applied for all levels of Indonesian society, especially for entrepreneurs who need safety packaging for their products. Okay, so now we are discussing about the craft paper, or also known as brown paper. Craft paper is one of the environmentally friendly paper packaging options. These materials are usually brown in color because they haven't been bleached. The craft paper itself is made from pulp paper that has been through the craft process. The biodegradable aspects for this craft paper packaging product makes it environmentally friendly. The craft paper will be described by enzymes and produced by living organisms. Enzymes formed by living organisms can characterize the craft paper. This is because paper is produced without the use of any other chemicals. So the craft paper is also used in the making of multi-wall shipping bag. So implementing the use of environmentally friendly packaging in a massive way would have a positive impact on the environment. This packaging would also have an impact on startup business entrepreneurs. The amount of waste generated will be decreased, and it will be easier to recycle, while the demolition of the plastic involves the use of UV light, which can harm humans' health, as well as the other living creature and its ecosystems. From the table shown, it is known that craft paper is the best material based on its weight, price per sheet, and characteristic when compared to the other two materials. The multi-purpose paper is too lightweight, thin, and easy to be tear, which can impact the durability from the loads given to this material. Whereas the double-X board is pricier compared to the other two materials. It is followed by its bleaching process and use white liner coating to the paper, which is not suitable in craft process. And it also uses chemical in the making process. Okay, so this is a comparison mind map between the materials. We have the main problem here. It is plastic. It has some advantages and disadvantages, which are low manufacturing in cost, strong long-term longevity, easy to use, and lightweight. But plastic is has more costs to spend on the demolition process because it is hard to decompose. It also uses chemical process, which can harm humans' health. Since it's hard to decompose, it can make plastic waste problem, which is not eco-friendly for our environment. Second, we have duplex board. It is thick, flexible, made from pulp, and high tear resistance, which is good for packaging. But it is more expensive than craft and multi-purpose paper. And it also uses white liner coating and through some bleaching process, which includes chemical processes, which is not eco-friendly either. The third, we have multi-purpose paper, which is cheaper, flexible, made from pulp also, and wood grain free. It is also thin and lightweight, which affect the packaging weight on the expedition. And then, but it's low in tear resistance, which is not good for protective packaging. Lastly, we have craft paper here. It is less expensive than the duplex board, flexible, made from pulp. It is also no bleaching process, and non-chemical. It is also high tear resistant, which is good for packaging, and it's also thick, but it is more expensive than multi-purpose paper. So based on from this mind map, the craft paper is the best material that suits the criteria of eco-friendly packaging. Okay, the concept of the form packaging is using geometrical pattern to make the packaging durable and strong. The idea comes from the bubble wrap plastic that is used repetitive geometrical pattern filled with air. In this case, the packaging would not be filled with air, but instead, the packaging will form hollows that has a room for air, which has the same function as the air on the bubble wrap. The first form of the packaging used square grid pattern with a gap of 10 millimeters. The second form used hexagonal or honeycomb pattern with a gap of 10 millimeters also, but 5 millimeters in thickness. This pattern combines hexagonal shape in a structured way to form a strong form of the packaging. Another form of the packaging used is a circular pattern, which with a gap of 10 millimeters and 5 millimeters of thickness. From the sketch before, I made some packaging mock-ups from 200 grammage craft paper material and made it as close as the real packaging going to be. This method is using real material to perform the quality of the material itself. In order to review the function and durability of the material. In this experiment, the grid pattern is used to be compared to a hexagon or honeycomb pattern. This pattern is arranged in a such way to resemble a protective packaging that has a function similar to bubble wrap plastic. I tested on the packaging strength and the durability by bumping the sample product against the floor and walls, stepping on it and dropping it onto the floor. Besides, these mock-ups were also carried out for a pressure test. The test was applied by giving pressure on the packaging by hand. This test is conducted in order to find the stronger form of the packaging from the ideas before. The square grid pattern packaging mock-up was able to withstand a load of 28.3 kilograms, according to the results of this experiment. However, this mock-up has damage at some points. The same case has happened to the circular pattern packaging, where it was able to withstand a load of 37.3 kilograms and got damaged at some points. But the hexagonal pattern packaging mock-up, on the other hand, was able to withstand pressure loads up to 30.7 kilograms without being damaged. But if any more force is applied, the packaging will only get folded or flattened or suffer in minor damage, but it will still protect the product inside. Even it is not as strong as when the hollows is still intact. The packaging thickness itself is 5 millimeters with hollows that is twice the size. The packaging can be adjusted to fit the shape of the object. And this form can withstand a pressure up to 30.7 kilograms for one layer of the packaging. So giving more layers to wrap the product can hold the pressure even more. So this is the solution to my problem of my research. This is Hexagraph, a protective packaging for interior products made from craft paper. It is developed as a solution to the problem that for this case. The name Hexa is derived from the hexagonal form. Wrap is a protective packaging that is used to protect a product from being damaged. So Hexawrap is made from craft paper, which is a biodegradable and environmentally friendly material. Furthermore, it is less expensive on the manufacturing process compared to the plastic or styrofoam, which can harm the environment due to the material's demolition process. The process itself necessitates UV light, while it could endanger the environment. It is concluded that the use of craft paper with a hexagonal pattern form could be a substitute for plastic packaging such as bubble wrap and styrofoam in order to save the environment. Besides, Hexawrap can either be a protective layer inside the packaging as a substitution to bubble wrap, or can be product packaging by itself, like this. So I tested on vanity lamp. I wrap it and I designed it like a pretty packaging to make a it's like to make a environmentally friendly packaging. To maintain its sustainability after being used as an interior product packaging, Hexagraph can be transformed into a protective layer.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bernadette, your time
Yes?
is up. Please close your conclusion.
Okay, thank you for the reminder. This packaging can also be a decorative element, depends on the user itself. For instance, it can be a frame photo wall decoration, craft experiment for kids, and so on. Another example of reusing Hexagraph is by using it as a protective layer to glass bottle, egg carton, or other fragile items when grocery shopping. So the user can use freely. Okay, to sum up, the main problem of plastic waste can be reduced by using eco-friendly material as the substitution. In this case, craft paper. The use of this material can replace plastic and styrofoam packaging in order to create an eco-friendly environment. The data showed that craft paper is the best material that could be a substitute for plastic based on the weight, durability, price, and characteristic compared to the blackboard and multipurpose paper. By the time people using Hexagraph, less disposable plastic packaging is used, resulting in less plastic waste. Since the amount of plastic waste generated is decreased, this could reduce contamination in the surrounding environment. In order to carry out the distribution of the packaging and in a sustainable manner, Excelwrap requires the dissemination of products in several good manufacturers. Okay, that's all for my presentations of this study. Thank you for your attention, and I hope this study can be applied in our society.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Bernadette, such as interesting research. Excelwrap plastic and styrofoam substitution in interior product packaging. I think this is another applied research and it's very interesting. This is maybe rare we hear the research about applied research. And now we can follow the presentation in this room. It's very interesting topic. I want to invite all the participants or the other presenter to maybe want to ask something or to make clearly about this research. Please welcome.
Can I ask a question, Pak Charles?
Yes, please, Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Bernadette, for your presentation. So my question is, this using of plastic, that you mentioned is very bad for the environment. So my question is it mainly because we don't yet have the technology to make sure that plastic is environmentally friendly, or whether plastic is something that's bad and we just have to get rid of it? So that's the first question. And the second one is, would introducing new technology like the Hexagraph be enough to replace plastic, or because plastic is very versatile, Hexagraph is not that versatile compared to plastic, and that's the reason why it hasn't been adopted widely, for example. So what's the best of the future, do you think? We should do more research so that the technology can make sure that plastics can be recycled and be environmentally friendly, or should we try to push for other more environmentally friendly products? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. First of all, I think the plastic itself is can be throw everywhere, or if it's hard to decompose. So that's why I come up to an idea to use eco-friendly material that is easy to decompose when it's recycled or being thrown, that can be decomposed by the microorganisms. For the second question, I think Hexagraph can be the solution of the plastic wrap, but maybe some idea, maybe some other good ideas can be can answer this problem for this plastic wrapping materials like that. Do I answer your question yet?
Yes, thank you, Bernadette.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Is there any other question for Mrs. Bernadette? I think this applied research is very interesting.
Thank you.
There any question? Still waiting other question. I want to ask you, as your presentation before that you say Indonesia is have in big three rank in how to produce waste. Is it right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the second place.
According to your research, I think you have courage, you're brave to doing this research. How you can suggest our government to manage the plastic waste in our country? Because we can see in the sea, in the river, anywhere we can see the plastics. The people just using and throw it usually. So what you suggest to our government? They can manage wisely. They can manage the plastic waste. So we can have a good environment around us.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think that's why I joining this program. I want to share my thoughts and my studies on this research on plastic waste, so that maybe the committee or the people here can share it to the government or something like that, so that it can be applied in our society. But maybe from me or other people, maybe we can like make it's like a startup business for this eco-friendly material, so it can touch other people's heart to like save our environment by using the eco-friendly materials, and to maintain the use of this. It's from our I think it's from ourselves that can what is that? It's like from our hati nurani lah, something like that.
Okay, I think I agree with you, because how to save our world, to save our Indonesia, to save our environment is not begin from us, because how matter we want to make our environment, our country better than before, we must begin from our attitude, our self, how to create a good environment for us. I think that's all. Is there any question? I want to check the chat room before. Okay, there is no. Is there any question from other presenter or other participant? Because this is Hexagraph is very interesting applied research, where we can find this research in other conference or seminar. I think. Is there not a question anymore? I want to say that it's a good research, and I hope you can have your goal in this research and can help our country to manage the plastic waste in our environment in Indonesia. I think that's all. Thank you so much, Mrs. Bernadette.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Okay. And now we continue to next presenter. I want to invite Mrs. Ira Aprilianti with topic, does digital innovation help to tackle poverty? Evidence from Indonesia biggest ride-hailing platform. Okay, I think it's time for Mrs. Ira to presenting your paper. We give you 25 minutes. The time is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. So before Miss Ira speaking, me, Yani, as the second author, will start the presentation. Okay. Is the time started? Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, shall I start? Good afternoon, Bapak and Ibu. This is Ira and Yani. We will present our paper titled Does Digital Innovation Help Tackle Poverty? Evidence from Indonesia's biggest ride-hailing platform.
Sorry, your voice louder, please. We can hear clearly.
Okay. Is it better now, Pak?
Yes.
Okay. So good afternoon. Thank you for again having us. Before we start the presentation, we would like to give a disclaimer that this paper is not funded and does not represent any opinions or views from other organizations or institutions, including the official position that we hold right now. So this is the summary of our paper. For the methods, we use a mixed methods, which is case study approach for the qualitative study. And then for the quantitative study, we use a dynamic panel data model by using a two-step system generalizing methods of moments with the forward orthogonal deviation techniques. With the equation you can see on the screen and later will be explained by my colleague Ira. So this is the data that we use. And then also for the results, we find that the ride-hailing platforms actually reduce the poverty level by 0.47% in the short run. Meanwhile, in the long run, it can triple to 1.31% in the long run. So therefore, we provide three practical recommendations. The first is that the government should design a pro-inclusion policies, as well as implementing a pro-innovation regulatory framework. And then the related stakeholders should design labor market policies to protect informal workers. So this is the structure of our paper. For the last three parts will be explained by my colleague Ira. Let's come to the introduction part. One of the study by McKinsey actually mentioned that Indonesia predicted to generate 150 billion US dollar by 2025 if we accelerate the digital economy. This is actually also supported by some studies by several researchers, including my colleague Ira, mentioning how innovation could actually accelerate growth. The digital market transformation also can unlock the economic progress and eradicate poverty. However, digital revolutions are also highly disruptive and can lead to wider gap of socioeconomic inequalities. So after studying some research and studies, we still find some gap. So to the best of our knowledge, we see that most literature on the impact of digitalization on poverty is dominated by the study in North American and European countries. And also the study in the context of Indonesia is still little number of studies that explore the digitalization in Indonesia, as well as the causal relationship between platform and then the poverty. Therefore, in this study, we would like to provide ground evidence and recommendation through mixed method analysis, as mentioned before. And also, I would like to find the long-term impact by using a dynamic model, which has yet to be conducted before. So let's come to the discussion and the case study part. On the research on ride-hailing platform, we find actually in general we find two different perspectives. The first view actually argue that ride-hailing has improved the socio-economic welfare. However, in the other side, other views see that actually ride-hailing platforms can exploit working hours of its workers and causing volatility of income due to its informality. So how is it actually in Indonesia? Therefore, we did a case study that aim to trace the development of one of the biggest ride-hailing platforms in Indonesia, which is Gojek. Ojek is probably everyone well aware of. Ojek is one of the long-standing transportations in Indonesia. But however, Nadiem Makarim, which was later who became the founder of Gojek, found that Ojek's operation had an issue of underutilization of supply and demand. So Nadiem Makarim finally established a Gojek in 2010, which was a call center that actually connected an Ojek drivers and also the passengers. However, the growth of Gojek was actually stagnant until 2014. There was a Singaporean company who invested in Gojek to later be developed as a startup, the one that we know right now. The establishment of Gojek actually, the product was based on the customer's most requested product from the 2010 until 2015, which include GoRide, GoFood, GoMart, and GoSend. Gojek also claimed during our interview that while they did not really benchmark its operation to ride-hailing platforms in other countries, Gojek actually see that the positive trend of other ride-hailing platforms such as Uber, also the rising popularity of smartphone in Indonesia at that time contributed to the establishment of Gojek, which kicked off its operation in 2015. We also tried to see how Gojek in the context of Indonesia's poverty. A study by Bapak Arif Anshor Yusuf and Pak Andi Sumner in 2015 mentioned that the rapid growth of urban areas was not equally distributed. This actually contribute to the increasing number of informal employment in Indonesia. Therefore, Gojek can actually provide the short-term opportunities for people to get a job and also earn wages. However, this cannot be the ultimate answer for employment. During its early establishment, actually Gojek faced some challenges. The representative of Gojek mentioned that there were two main challenges. The first is the digital literacy and persuasion process of the Ojek drivers, and the second is the government resistance. As we all are aware of, the penetration of Gojek was quite disruptive, very disruptive at that time. So there was a change, there was a dynamic among the Ojek drivers as well as in the law, the Indonesian law. However, due to the public demand, actually Gojek was able to develop its platform until right now, where we can see in numbers from 2015 until 2020, it kept growing in terms of the driver partners, merchant partners, and also the total downloads. So also in this presentation, we would like to share our framework of thinking about how actually digitalization can help reduce the poverty through several channels, such as output, income, consumption, and other channels as mentioned in the screen. Actually, in the 2020, Lembaga Demografi FEB UI shared that 80% of drivers actually felt that they had better life quality after joining Gojek. Meanwhile, 82% of small medium enterprises said that they experienced increased transactions after joining the platform. But what is the ground evidence that actually ride-hailing platform, in this case Gojek, can actually help reduce the poverty? Therefore, in this case, I would like to invite my colleague Ira to present the quantitative study.
Yeah, thank you, Yani. So before we proceed into the methods, it is important for us to understand the assignment. Gojek actually define when and where they enter in respective cities that we study. So after we conduct interview with Gojek officers, there are three main indicators on the assignment rule for the ride-hailing interns. The first is macroeconomic indicators, which includes gross domestic products, economic growth, etc. Second, digital indicators, which includes smartphone penetrations and digital tools usage, such as e-commerce and social media. And the last is qualitative indicators, such as supportive licensings and permits. But those indicators are not strictly quantified, so we couldn't find such cutoff points. Next. So that's why we model, next. Yeah, we model the research by using dynamic panel data, using data from Statistic Indonesia and annual household survey data, SUSANAS, from 2014 to 2020. So we use the data from 2014 because we define the treatment or the assignment as Gojek as digital platform. So it excludes Gojek while they are still operating as a customer call center. So in the model here, we can find we use the dynamic panel data because we want to control the unobserved time variant. And after we have initial regression, we also find that the estimated lag in the poverty level is significant. So that's why the use of dynamic data is valid here. So the left-hand side here, as I explained, is the poverty level. We use poverty headcount ratio. We calculate it by using Statistic Indonesia poverty line and SUSANAS. The right-hand side here is the lag of poverty level. And then TE here is the treatment variables, which is a dummy variable of ride-hailing entrance, one for all years after Gojek enter the respective kabupaten and kota, and 0 for anything other else. So we use the treatment variables data from internal data from Gojek, press releases, and media sources. X here is covariate or control variables. We ensure all the 12 control variables are balanced. And then the theta here are the time fixed effects, which accommodate period shocks that might affect poverty level across all cities. W here is the cities and regencies fixed effect to control the time invariant impacts on poverty level. So we count the arbitrary serial correlation over time within groups. And for epsilon here is error term. And the parameter of interest for us is the beta 1 hat or the treatment effects, the estimated treatment effects. So we run the model or run the equation using a two-step GMM using FOD transformation method, because many scholars found that it results better than first difference transformation due to computational advantages. It results lower bias and better performance of estimated treatment effect and more reliable standard deviation based on research by many scholars. And we also avoid problem of over-instrumentalization by collapsing instrument to reduce the number of instruments as suggested by Rodman in 2009. So the result next, the result are shown in the table. Number 2, we found that in the short run, ride-hailing platform reduced the poverty level by 0.47%. And by using a dynamic model, we can calculate the long-term impact by dividing beta beta divided by 1 minus gamma here, the lag of poverty level 0.64%. So we found that the long-term impact of reduction of poverty reduction is 1.31%. We also present the Arellano-Bowen and Hansen test statistics to ensure that our estimations is free from second-degree autocorrelation and over-identifying restriction. And we also check the instrument strength by using weak instrument robustness and confidence interval for dynamic models. So we found that our instruments are sufficiently strong. Next, so how could ride-hailing platforms reduce the poverty level? We try to use model the difference in difference model by moving the control variables into the left-hand side and still the treatment variables in the right-hand side. And we find that the increase in GDP, that the ride-hailing platform increased the GDP by 2.34 millions, increased the per capita income by to 23,500 per month, and reduced the Gini index by 0.01 basis points. So these three indicators at least explain that ride-hailing can enhance the regional economy and might be channeling it to the reductions of poverty. And the second reasons may be like plausible reasons why ride-hailing platforms can reduce the poverty level is due to increase the number of internet users. We also run the same model and found that the ride-hailing platforms increase the proportions of internet users by 1.62%. So we see that the impact of integrating online services such as Gojek by integrating logistic, payment points, and digital platforms can also serve as the first digital apps that is used for the first time internet users. So it promotes inclusion indirectly. Next. So we have two conclusions. The first, digitalizations through digital ride-hailing platforms can eradicate poverty to leveling up economy and opening access to the digital means. And our case study also concludes that simple observations on resource inefficiency could translate into valuable innovations. Next. Next, one more slide, please. So we have three policy implications. So the first is pro-inclusion policies. We found countries like India and Tanzania have affordable smartphone policy, or other countries such as Sri Lanka and Kazakhstan, they have affordable internet policy. Second recommendations, we promoting pro-innovations policy and co-regulations like in Singapore, Japan, and European Union. The third one, we also advocate for a better labor market policies to protect informal gig workers, such as in the UK. So that's all from our side. Back to you, Yani.
Okay, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Mrs. Ira dan Mrs. Yani. That's just a good topic, I think. It's the same. I always using GMM Arellano bond when I using research to topic about poverty level. Several years in East Indonesia and Java, I using GMM always, because I believe that method can describe significantly how to describe the poverty, the GDP, or the economic growth. Okay. Thank you for your presentation, and I want to invite all the other 15 participants in this room to maybe make a question or suggestion. Please welcome. Is there any question or suggestion or comment? Please welcome. Because it's another interesting research, I think, that the two presenting before. Still waiting the question I want to ask you. I'm curious, beside this digital innovation, is there any factor or any variable, other variable, can contribute to reduce the poverty in Indonesia? Because I can see in your presentation, digital innovation it can help our country to reduce poverty in several percent. Is there any factor or variable besides digital innovation can significantly help our country to reduce the poverty? Please.
Thank you, Pak Charles, for the question. Is there any other factors that could reduce poverty? I believe there are many research on that, Pak, on on the contributing factors to the poverty itself, aside of the digital innovation. Well, in this case, we mainly study on the specific platform. But yeah, I think there are many factors. For instance, like the digital literacy itself, Pak, how it also help, like to help the penetration of the digital transformation, and also the government, the infrastructure, Pak, the infrastructure development also has an important role in this case to improve the digital transformation in Indonesia. So there, we believe that there will be many factors that should be considered. So this is not the only channel to reduce poverty, but also in terms of digital transformation itself, there should be many contributing or supporting factors on that. Maybe Ira, would you like to add?
Yeah, maybe just my 2 cents. Maybe other than digital innovation, the other part that is important also the access to the internet, the access to digital tools, other digital tools such as fintech, e-money, something that can support people to have access to the digital means. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you. I hope that answers.
Okay, I see another question from Mr. Daniel in chat box. You saw that Gojek entry into particular location is not random. How confident are you that the TE variable is still not indigenous, even after you include district, and after you include district and year fixed effect? In other words, did the common trends assumption hold? Okay, please you can answer, Mr. Yani or Mrs. Ira.
Yes, me. Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So the assignment is truly not random because there are 3 indicators that I explained before. But the number 3 there, the regulatory indicators can be plausibly, argumentatively random. We argued that in our paper. So still we are not saying that the causal inference is truly 100% whole due to that problem. But still, we found also when we asked to the Gojek officer how they pick a city or something like that, there is no certain plan or there is no certain variables that we can include or control within the model. So yeah, that's the lack of our paper. Thank you for saying it out loud. Thank you, Mas Daniel.
Okay, is there any question anymore? Because this topic is very interesting, talking about poverty, about digital transformation, digital information, innovation. Okay, maybe the last from me, you can answer. According to your presentation, I can see that you're talking about how to reduce the poverty in urban area. I'm curious, how about rural area? If we compare that 2 area, can you say something about it, please?
So this research also show affordable smartphone in rural area is also something that can be approached by a country. So we read research in India, and in India, for example, they give cheap smartphone in rural area where now people, women, men, or all the people in the rural area, they can easily sell things from e-commerce. They can connect online, go online. So that's also one part of the policy that a country can approach by providing, affordable smartphone in rural area. The other way also in rural area by promoting cheap internet access. African countries that we read in the desk research also provide policy to give cheap internet in rural area by a way of subsidizing company that would go in digital in provide internet in the rural area. There's also another way a country can deal or provide inclusion in internet access. So that is also another point that's maybe from my side. If you have any addition, Yani, please.
Yes, I agree on what Ms. Ira has mentioned. Also, we believe it's important to see the local context, because we see that from the best practice as well in other countries, and also it's important also to engage with the local government as well, Pak, in rural area, and then to engage with the law enforcement, and also to see the context, because it's not one size fits all. So it's important also, if we apply the digital technology, like as Ira has mentioned, it has to be whether it's affordable, whether it fits the context. So I think it's important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Ira and Mrs. Yani. I think, however, I agree with you, because with digital innovation, digital transformation, we can have a good strategy, good pattern how to reduce our poverty. Because Indonesia still have a big poverty if you compare with other developing countries in this world. I think that's all, because in this room, we only have 3 presenters. Thank you so much for Mr. Daniel Suryadarma, Mrs. Bernadette, and Mrs. Yani and Mrs. Ira. I hope with this presentation, we have a lot of benefit. And that's the presentation of this afternoon session. Some research results that are very good and very useful. And if they can contribute to improve the economy and welfare on the community in particular, we hope that the result of the study will not only be presented in this forum, but if they can be input and contribute to the academic world and for the progress of the nation and state. Keep your spirit up, take care of your health, apply strict health protocol, and always be productive and creative. And finally, I want to say thank you so much for all the presenter and participants in this group. And before we end this session, this room, I want to go back this session to Mrs. Ratri Mahanani.